We spend countless hours choosing curriculum, creating lessons, and planning activities. But the real question is, did the students learn? Because the goal of school is learning. Now, when we do all of that planning and implementing of our lessons, focused on Dr. Anita Archer's 13 Elements of Explicit Instruction, it is much more likely that the learning is actually going to happen. So let's go over those 13 elements now. First, we start with the topic of content. Within content, we need to choose critical content. I know we might have like the fun content we like to teach, but we need to ask ourselves, is that the critical content? We don't have time to be telling lots of extra stories or doing lots of extra activities. We need to focus on what kind of content? That's right, the critical content. And then we need to break that down into manageable, meaningful chunks so that students can learn it. If we give too much at one time, we're going to end up with cognitive overwhelm, and then learning is not actually going to happen. So that is topic 1, content. Next, we have design. What's the next topic? Design. Element 3 is organized and focused lessons. We need to make sure that we are teaching things in an order that is building upon previous material and an order that makes sense. Then we need to make sure that we are staying focused on that critical organized content, that we're not confusing students by jumping around to different topics or telling stories in the moment that don't really help students to learn. Next, we're going to make sure that students are aware of the goal. The what? The goal. Now, when I was teaching, I always had my goal on the board because I was complying with the requirement of the administrator in my building. But I didn't understand why the goal needed to be there or why my students really needed the goal. So let me tell you, so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. What the goal does is it helps our students' brains to focus on that critical content. Every moment of every day, we are bombarded by millions, if not billions of stimuli, and our brain gets rid of, sorts out most of it. And so we need to tell our students' brains when they need to lock in and pay attention. That's what the goal does. Here's our goal. Here's what we're going to learn today. And so when you hear about that, lock in and pay attention. Then we need to begin each lesson with some kind of a review. A what? Review. Now, the review is very critical. Here is an error many teachers make. Many teachers turn this review into a reteach, and they say, okay, good morning. If you remember, yesterday we learned about yada, 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 and you say what you learned about in about 7 minutes when yesterday it took you 45 minutes to share it. Now, what that teaches our students over time is I don't have to listen during that 45-minute lesson because tomorrow the teacher's going to say those critical pieces in a shorter time frame. So maybe I'll just listen then. It also doesn't provide the kind of challenge that our students' brains need to, in fact, learn. A better way to review is a recall or a retrieve rather than a reteach. So instead of saying everything again in 7 minutes, have everyone get out a piece of paper and say, right now we're going to do a brain drain. I want you to write down everything you remember from yesterday's lesson. You have 1 minute to do that and go. So students write down what they remember in 1 minute. If the students are really young and can't do the writing down, have them talk to a partner. Now, after the 1 minute, we say, now we're going to do a check and add. A check and add means you're going to work with your partner. Partner number 1 is going to say one thing they wrote down. If partner 2 has that, check it off. If they don't have it and they like it, they can add it. Hence, check and add. So I'll give you 1 minute to do a check and add and go. Students have now spent 2 minutes actively retrieving from their brain the information that was presented yesterday. This helps the learning process, and the goal of school is learning. So now as the teacher, I'm going to be walking around, looking around, talking around during these 2 minutes to make sure students are surfacing that extra critical content. I might take then 1 more minute to reshare some of that critical content, make sure everyone has it, or have a student share out what I really wanted to make sure everyone knows. Now, we've just used 3 minutes to do a really effective review rather than 7 minutes to do an ineffective reteach. I just gained you 4 minutes back in every lesson. You are welcome. We never have enough time, so there you go, 4 more minutes every day. After that review, we're going to make sure that we teach our information in an I do, we do, you do type of format. First, I do it. I, as the lead learner, I, as the expert in the classroom, I am going to show you what success looks like. It is almost impossible for humans to do something new well when they've never seen it done well. You can tell me to go to my garage and build a rocket ship. I am never going to build a rocket ship in my garage, no matter how hard I try, because I have never seen anyone do it well. Next, we have the we do. So now that I have done it and shown you how to do it, we are all going to do it together. It might start off by teacher says the next step, and then we all do that step. Teacher says the next step, we all do that step. Eventually, I want it to be students tell me the next step, and then we do it together. Students tell me the next step, and then we do it together. Eventually, we get to the point where students can do it in small groups or in partners with me as the teacher simply guiding because they've had so much practice and they've seen me do that. And then we get to the next step, which is you do. So this is when students are able to do this independently. Now, it isn't often a very simple I do, we do, you do. Some students might be able to do that. For others, it needs to be I do, we do, we do, we do, we do, we do, you do. And then for some students that really struggle, or for some concepts that are really hard, it might be I do, we do, we do, we do, I do, we do, we do, I do, we 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 do, Christmas break, and then we come back, I do, we 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 do, you do. What we really want is to set students up for success here. The science of teaching is knowing the gradual release model. I do, we do, you do. The art of teaching is knowing how many repetitions in each of those areas students are going to need for the content and for the student. Okay, that was the design section. Now we get to delivery. What topic? Delivery. Now in delivery, first we're going to have frequent responses. What kind of responses? Frequent. We need to know often that students are following along. Just like I'm giving you some opportunities now to echo back things that I'm saying, we need students to do that as well. We need, for our students, need for us to institute a no hands raised policy. When the answers are short and the same, we're all going to say them together. 2 + 2 equals, everyone, 4. Everyone needs to say that so that all of our brains are active and learning. If the answers are long or different, we can say our answers to a partner. If a question is worth asking, it is worth everybody having the opportunity to answer. Next, we need to monitor. What do we need to do? Monitor. We need to monitor as students are answering. We need to monitor as students are participating. We want perfect practice as often as possible. We'll talk more about practice in a moment. As we monitor, we need to provide feedback. What are we going to provide? Feedback. We need specific feedback as quickly as possible, especially when students are novices and they're just learning something. We need our feedback to be almost immediate so that students are knowing what errors they're making and, most importantly, knowing how to fix those errors so they are, in fact, doing the thing correctly. Our feedback needs to be gentle and quiet. What does it need to be? gentle and quiet. So I'm not going to, from my spot in the classroom, shout to a student in the back of the classroom some feedback. I'm going to walk to that student and I'm going to provide that gentle and quiet feedback that builds up the student to do better, not tears them down for doing something less than the correct way. Then we're going to have a brisk pace. What kind of pace? Brisk pace. We want students to know that this information is important and we want to keep moving along. One of my favorite Archerisms is avoid the void, for they shall fill it. If we give students extra time during a lesson, they're going to fill that extra time with something. And chances are it's not going to be a something that we like. And so we need to keep our pace brisk and focused on the lesson content. So if we're going to do a partner activity and we think it's going to take 2 minutes for those structured partners to have the conversation, I might give 1 minute and 48 seconds. Over time, this is indicating to my students, we better get talking right away because we're not going to have extra time. It helps to keep their conversation focused and targeted. When I think something's going to take 2 minutes and I give my students 3 or 4 minutes, what that does over time is indicate to my students, we have plenty of time. We don't have to start right away. We can talk about that drama from the cafeteria or what we're going to do later after school. That is not what we want. We want students focused on the learning because the goal of school is learning. So we need to maintain that brisk pace that helps us to maintain a focus on the learning. And finally, practice. We need judicious practice. Lots of practice and the right kind of practice. Because let me tell you something, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfected practice over time makes perfectly permanent. So we need to have lots of practice where students are doing whatever we're teaching them correctly and repeatedly. So they are making those brain patterns of correct doing of the thing in their brain. We don't want them practicing incorrectly because then they're just making those incorrect pathways permanent in their brain. We want as close to perfect practice as possible. Whoosh! That was a really quick fly through the 13 elements of explicit instruction. I was blessed to learn about these 13 elements during Dr. Anita Archer's Explicit Instruction Academy. If you are looking for the best professional growth experience, in my opinion, that you can possibly ever have, you need to check out Dr. Anita Archer's Explicit Instruction Academy. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Trostle Talk. I hope that you will consider subscribing. Let me know down in the comments which of these elements is your strongest. Which of these elements would you like some more information about? That will help me know what kinds of videos to make in the future. I am Michelle Trostle, and thanks for joining.